Hello everyone, and welcome to Mr. Simplify's tutorial. First and foremost, I'd like to apologize for the sort of severe delay and the inactivity of this channel. But because we're looking at a very interesting topic, I would like to quickly move on and not waste your time in apologizing. Today's topic is the Boston Matrix, which is a very simple tool but a very important tool nevertheless for devising business and marketing strategies. Now, this is an extremely important tool. It's quite simple, but still effective, till date. And the tool and the approach to be used is basically outlined below. Uh, the Boston Matrix is an important business tool developed by the renowned Boston consulting group BCG. It was devised in the late 1970s, and it's a tool used basically to analyze a business's portfolio of brands or products. So every major business has a wide variety of products, a wide variety of brands where these products are categorized in, and this tool basically separates these products or these brands out into various different quadrants in a matrix based on their performance in the market, based on the amount of money they generate. And then, you'll obviously learn more about how this tool is used through practical examples that we use all through this tutorial. Okay, so let's start off by looking at the matrix itself. Just a first look. If you feel confused, if you feel that this is something complicated, don't worry. We'll go through it in detail and it will be simplified for you. So, as we see, there are two axes in this tool, and both start from low to high, basically. And then there are two labels for this axis: market growth rate and relative market share, which we're going to get to, and four quadrants, which we're also going to get to, and which are the most important aspects of this tool. Now, firstly, touching upon the axis, you would have noticed that there are two distinct axis labels, which are market growth rate and relative market share, or also called just as market share in a lot of different versions. Yeah, it's important to remember that there are various different versions or interpretations of the tool. Most interpretations are simplistic, and you can broadly classify and categorize the interpretations. But I'm going to look at one of the interpretations, which is obviously the most common and the most useful interpretation in my point of view. So coming back to the axis, the first axis you'd see, which is on the y-axis, is the market growth rate, and it is basically the rate of growth of the sales or the revenue of any particular product or a brand in a company's portfolio in its operating market. So if we look at the automotive industry, for example, in Toyota's case, it would, for instance, be the rate of growth of the Toyota Yaris in a particular market, say the west of Scotland in the UK. And what is relative market share, or just simply called as market share? Well, relative market share or market share is the share of a product in comparison to its biggest competitors, basically. As simple as that. Again, going back to our example, it could be the market share of the Toyota Yaris against one of its biggest competitors, which would be the Honda Civic. Again, look at the same area, which is the west of Scotland in the UK. Okay, now let's take a look at the matrix once again. Now, we're clear about the axes now, what they're used to map. Now, there are four quadrants in which products or brands associated with the company are to be placed in. So, the actual quadrants are stars, question marks, cash cows, and dogs. As you would observe, placing a product in the category of stars would automatically mean that it would have a high relative market share and a high growth rate as well. We are going to look at the quadrants individually now. Okay, so the quadrant star. So the products placed in the quadrant of stars would have a high market share, and it would actually operate in markets with a very high growth rate. Stars basically are the best products in a company's portfolio. They are products that a company is proud to have. They have USPs, they have competitive advantages over all of their competitors in the market. But it comes with a pinch of salt, because you also need to provide huge inflow of investments, more often than not, obviously, just so that these products or brands retain their share in the market and their recognition. And obviously there are ups and downs in the market, so cash flow could sometimes be an issue, because the amount of investment you're actually infusing in these products would probably morph the cash flow at some points in the product life cycle. Now, these stars, or these products which are categorized as stars, are critical for businesses, and it's also critical that their stars retain the market leadership that they have. And this is mainly achieved by customer retention. Businesses need to make sure that people keep coming back to them and keep buying their stars, so that they can have some sort of a profit, obviously. And the main thing that these stars would do is to actually establish the business as a stronghold, as a brand stronghold, because stars are easily recognizable. Stars are the most recognizable products in the business. So whatever be the amount of investment going into stars, companies have to ensure that their stars retain their leadership position. And now we come to question marks. Now, question marks have low market share, but operate in markets with a very high growth rate. They're also often called problem children. I don't really like associating the word problem children with any business terminology, to be honest, but they're often called problem children, and they're called so because you don't really know what to do with them, but they still belong to you, still belong to your business as products or brands. So they basically have low cash flows, and they need constant investments as well. So certain products that are question marks, certain products are which are question marks at this point in time, can very easily, with infused investment, become stars. But obviously, more often than not, in these cases, the amount of investment required would be huge. So, in terms of business strategies, it's quite important to understand that companies need to be selective and only invest in certain question marks which have the potential to become stars. Because obviously the amount of investment needed would actually morph the profits that come out of question marks if the investments are too big. So companies need to be careful in investing in the right question marks. How about cash cows? Now, cash cows are normally company favorites because they have a very high market share, and they don't require too many investments, and they don't require brand alterations as well, and more often than not. They also do have a low market growth rate. Now, cash cows are called cash cows simply because they bring in a lot of revenue for the company. They bring in a lot of revenue for the company without much of an effort. They don't need any major investments, and therefore it is very important for companies. It's probably one of the most important strategic decisions in companies is to actually find out ways of continually milking their cash cows. So basically, cash cows need to be milked so that the increased profit is then reinvested into stars and question marks, and also with the hope of converting some question marks into stars. Now we get on to poor old dogs. Well, dogs are lovely animals in the real world, but for some reason in the BCG matrix, it's actually considered to be one of the worst products or brands associated with companies. Anyway, so dogs have low market shares and low market growth rates, obviously, looking at where they're placed on the chart. A lot of the times, dogs are products which have had their heyday, have been in their prime already, and are in a declining phase in their product life cycle. They're past their prime, basically. Or they could just be completely failed products or brands. Either of the two. There is a very low likelihood, more often than not, of any dogs becoming stars, even with huge amounts of investment. So it's very important for companies to identify them and in some cases accept them to be mistakes and get rid of them, and in some cases just maintain a low amount of investment in them and just retain them. So I hope these concepts are a bit clear for you, a bit clearer than they were at the start of the video, of course. To clarify it further, we are going to look at an example. Now, it's important to note that this example holds true at this point in time, and it's obviously my interpretation. So it doesn't have to be 100% accurate or 100% relevant at all times. So the example I've chosen is Nestle because it's one of the largest companies in the world, huge FMCG giant, and a company that everybody relates to. So what would be, and again, to keep the example simple, I've chosen just one product in each quadrant. So it's very obvious that Nescafe would be a star. It's also quite obvious that Nesquik would be a question mark. So Nescafe as a star, quite obviously market leader. So the relative market share is huge. The market growth rate is enormous, but you obviously still need a lot of investment in marketing through in advertisements, etc., to keep that brand right on top. Nesquik doesn't have a market share, but the market growth rate, I would say, is quite high. Now, Kit Kat, an obvious cash cow. It's always been a cash cow. It's got a very high market share, but obviously the market growth in that particular category would be slightly low, I would say. A bit questionable, but this is where I see them for now. Nestea iced tea. Well, we've all come across this brand, but not sure how many of us have actually used it. It's certainly a dog. It's got a relatively low market share, and it's got a low market growth rate. So Nestle's, it's probably one of the issues that Nestle faces every now and again is to reconsider continually investing in brands which fall into the dog category. So okay, that was our example. A lot of questions are raised in terms of the reliability of the matrix in this day and age. I would say that it's got its limitations. It's only reliable to a very a minimalistic extent. It's a good exercise, no doubt. It's a good exercise to identify strong and weak brands or products in your portfolio, especially if your portfolio is as broad as Nestle's is. But it's also important to understand that the access, there are only two accesses to access, and then there are so many factors in the market that it is actually impossible to have every factor influencing a product or a brand on a two-dimensional axis. It's very important to realize that it's just a two-dimensional axis. It's too simplistic, and then it makes assumptions that market share will always mean high profits. Well, it would also mean very high investment. It's not easy to be a market leader in anything. Always needs a huge amount of investment, and investment can also be time, which is obviously a huge cost at the end of the day. Okay, so these are some basics in terms of the Boston Consulting Group's Boston Matrix, a very renowned business and marketing tool. I hope the explanation provides you a bit of insight. I hope it was useful for you, and I hope I'm able to contribute to the channel on a more regular basis and provide more useful content to you. And obviously, keep liking my videos. There will be more videos now. Subscribe and support the channel for more content. Thank you very much. I hope you have a very safe and productive day. Thank you. Bye-bye.